It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendo. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's our first show in February, the month of our general elections, at least at the federal level. In 15 days, I believe. Oh, actually, 13 days. We should be electing a president and our National Assembly representatives. We are all hoping that things go well. Election is pretty much the only thing being talked about in the country today. There's a lot of campaigning and electioneering going on, a lot of politicking, back and forth, mudslinging, and it's quite interesting for people who are fans of politics. People say that this is World Cup season for politicians, and people who are in love with politics, it's the time to just sort of soak it all in. But for a lot of other people just want it to be over with so that we can get back to normal. But even after that, March still brings for the state election, so it's going to be a long election season. But we're going to be talking about election violence and hopefully the lack of it when the elections come along. I have here with me, God bless Otubori and Tunji Alao, to help me talk about that. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
So there's a lot to wrap. I mean, elections in Nigeria sadly have become synonymous with violence. It's almost as if you can't have one without the other. Sometimes on a not so large scale. We've had instances where, at least in the last election, it was relatively peaceful, is the word we used then, relatively. But people still lost their lives. A couple of, sadly, NYSC people or coppers who were supposed to be ad hoc staff of the elections. It wasn't as bad as 2011 when people were hacked to death. We don't know what to expect this year. There's a lot of hope that things will be even better than they were in 2015. Hopefully no lives are lost. What are you seeing and what are you feeling so far?
I mean, as a stakeholder in the process, looking at what we do in the country, and if you read the intelligence report, both from the international community and even local intelligence, it says that the possibility for violence is high. And for me, I think it's troubling. As young people, we have consistently asked to be a part of the system, but we rose up from these conversations last year and we said, look, if there is no peace, there is no way we can even be a part of the system. So I think it's, there's this possibility of violence. I mean, looking at the report so far, and even if you look at some of the flag-offs of some of the parties, their campaigns, and you know, it's not been what we hoped for. And that is why all the work we're doing, this show that you guys are doing now, and every work we're doing with the Vote Not Fight is just there to ensure that we don't have a repeat of 2011 and, you know.
Yeah. Well, so you're a politician, and I don't know, do you think the right things have been said, or do you think politicians haven't helped the situation with this particular campaign season?
I think with this election, you cannot compare what we have now to what we had in 2015 or what we had in 2011. Here we have two leading candidates from the same region in the country, same religion too, and we've not had issues of calling names and all that like we had in previous elections. So for me, I don't really see that happening. But my fear lies in the state elections, where there have been a lot of internal wranglings within opponents and candidates in those states. And that's where my fear lies. But for the federal elections, for the presidential elections...
So on that state level, you're seeing a lot of... With the politicians now, do you think that the things they're saying, for example, are they stoking the fire or are they actually helping?
Some few states, just last week in Ogun State, there was an attack on one of the candidates. And he came out to say that he never thought it was going to be like that, in Ogun State specifically. And just because there are so many candidates, and it seems as if the tension is high, we're seeing people going out there to campaign and going out there with arms. And that's where my fear really lies. But for the federal elections, for the presidential elections, I don't really see much of that happening.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate amongst Nigerians these days. Social media, even in real life. I feel like if you sit down with a Nigerian today, before you, in 2, 3, 5 minutes, you've started talking about politics. And it's intense, of course, with the two major parties, because there's this tussle with, oh, my guy is going to win, my guy is going to win. And there's, I want to call it competition, so that I don't use any words harsher than that. I mean, we see social media, the moment you tweet about one candidate, the other camp come swooping at your mentions, and it's very intense now. So is it the supporters actually that should be held accountable? Because the politicians are not necessarily on social media or are not having these one-on-one conversations where people are literally fighting and turning friends into enemies. Are the supporters taking it too far?
One of the definitions of politics is that it is the madness of the many for the benefit of the few. When you take into account that kind of definition, it tells you how that you have the vital few and the very many who do the wrong things. Now, one thing I have said to young people that, that we've worked together a long time now is, when you go to some of these meetings with these politicians, you will be, just go to some houses, you will find the seemingly warring factions, all drinking on the same table, eating on the same table, they are dancing to the same song, probably partying with the same girls, and doing all sort of things. Now, you don't know that, right? But when you come out, it's like, oh no, they are fighting each other. No, at best you must understand that interest is what drives people. I hear what you have said, Ebuka. The supporters are taking it too far. Absolutely too far. Looking at what Tunji has said, if you look at the two candidates, no one is calling anyone any name. Thank God for safety for the vice president yesterday. I was checking Twitter. You'll see that the PDP guys were all saying, thank God, so you can see that at that level, they understand that, look, we're saying we have a better idea for this country. You are saying you have a better idea for this country. Then let's talk about the issues. Supporters, most times, they take it too far.
Have this really been issue-based, though, this particular election season? Because I hear what you say, and it's been talked about a lot, that, okay, for the first time in a long time, we'll have two leading candidates, from the same region, same religion. So this might be issues-based. Have they really been issues-based? Because it looks like there's a lot of personality attacks, especially from the two main guys.
Unfortunately, I will not say this has been issue-based. We're not talking about the issues that we face every day, which I thought that should be the basis for this election. They are talking about frivolities, things that don't really matter. Talking about how some Nigerians were at the campaign rally and all that. We need to talk about the things that really push us forward as a nation. We're not talking about those things. We're not talking about why the students have been on strike for a long time. We're not talking about why we have problems in terms of unemployment in the country. We're not talking about everything that pertains to us as a nation. So really, for me, it's not been really issue-based. And I think, like, for the next 13 days that we have to the election, I hope that the two major parties would try to
stick
to those issues and start talking about the issues, because people are beginning to make up their minds. And one of the reasons why we have to make up our mind is we need to know what you have for us and what you actually plan to do. Not really about things that don't really matter to the people.
Yeah. You mentioned there now the Nigerian governors, and I want to talk about that. Things like that, for example, for the optics of it, even if they're not necessarily coming in to do anything while campaigning. But we've had a region where there's been speculation and allegations over the years, over the decades even, about people crossing over the borders to come in and vote and go back. And then why don't you think the optics of that doesn't work?
For me, I think
it could incite people.
We actually have laws against all these things. Yeah. The major problem we have is enforcement of these laws. Yeah. If you're not in Nigeria and you're voting in Nigeria, we have laws against all those things. We have laws against somebody getting someone else's PVC and coming to use it at the elections. We have a lot of laws. We have laws that can make you be in prison for 1 year. And we have a whole lot of them like that. What we just need to do is to put it out there. People don't even know that these laws exist. And they need to know that these laws exist, and these are the things that will happen if you break any of these laws. Yeah. And we try to use advocacy. We try to use all manner of forms to make sure that it's out there. Just as we're trying to do to sanitize social media and fake news, we should do the same thing for elections too.
Speaking about election day, Nnamdi Kanu is back in the news again. He's been on his radio station talking a lot, and I know that today he did issue a statement saying people from the South should sit down. sort of a protest against election day and not come out and vote, you know. I don't know what the repercussions of not sitting might be for people from the region who maybe decide, okay, I want to go vote anyways. I don't know if there are repercussions, but I'm just saying an order like that is not obviously not a valid thing to say. It's not from government. What sort of effect do things like this have on the election day? Because these are quote-unquote regional leaders who have some sort of following, you know.
It's a bad happening. I don't think it is right. His agitation is clearly stated, and there are processes to that. The people of the Southeast, as we speak today, are Nigerians. As we speak today, there is no state of Biafra, as it were. And if they decide not to come out and vote, it means that they are choosing to disenfranchise themselves from the process. The road to nationhood has always been tough. You know, maybe it's somehow man just decided to design the world that way. I don't know if that's how the creator designed it, but to attain nationhood has always been a tough journey. And his agitations of marginalization and everything, it's stated, but saying that people shouldn't come out and vote, I mean, I don't think is the right thing to do. And just speaking on what Tunji said, I mean, what you asked about the Nigerian governors that came to campaign, I do not think that was a good thing. Cross-border politics does not mean that leaders of other states should now come and campaign for you, especially when there's already the suspicion that these guys have ferried their people in millions or thousands to come and register, and then you are simply just saying to the world that what you were thinking is right. For the optics, that was absolutely a wrong move. They shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have done it.
Okay, well, let's talk about the states now, because you mentioned the states there, and I want to zero in on a few of them. There are some who, sadly, traditionally have been associated with violence on election day. Then there are those who, for peculiar or specific reasons over the last couple of months or years now, will be very closely watched. Rivers State, for example, definitely comes up a lot, because we know that virtually every election is heated there. It's one of those states where that comes in with the numbers and changes, you know, the dynamics of where the winner sort of comes from. Benue State is also being talked about a lot this time because it's become a very serious swing state. We don't know where things are going to go. So states like that, what do you expect to see from security operatives?
I believe that the federal government should try as much as possible to deploy enough security on ground. But the good thing about Rivers is this. Right now, as we speak, APC doesn't have candidates in Rivers State.
Well, have they accepted that they don't have candidates?
We still have 13 days to go to the election. We don't know where it's going to go. But currently, as we speak, APC don't have candidates in Rivers State. And I don't see much of violence happening there, because there are two major parties, PDP and APC, in Rivers. And since one of them don't have candidates, I don't really see much of violence in Rivers State. But for Benue, Benue is neither here or there. What we just have is we have a lot of military presence during the elections to encourage people to come out. One thing I fear is this voter apathy. We're seeing people saying that I'm just going to be wasting my vote going out there. But I believe that no one is wasting their vote. Even if you vote for a candidate, even if you believe the candidate is not going to win, you voted your conscience. And we need to continually tell people that. I've had some engagement in the course of this campaign. And we also see that one of the reasons why we see youth engaging in violence is because they've seen it done over the years, and people escape. Nothing is being done to them. I'll give you an instance. I was just talking to a couple of youths, like 10 of them, average age of 24, 25. And I just asked them a random question. Which of you have PVCs? Out of like 8, 9, 10 of them, only like 2. So I asked, how come they didn't have? They gave all manner of reasons. And they said, bros, forget to say we don't get PVC. The work we will go do for you, it pass PVC. If you snatch
so that's basically the mentality. So
yes,
they're saying there's still that mentality amongst young people, and they're still being used as tools, obviously.
Yes, because they believe that that's the opportunity for them to make some cool money. and they can go.
But is it cool though if you're going to be violent and snatch ballot boxes? But still talking about the states now, maybe to a lesser degree, they don't necessarily have a tradition of violence, but they are quite heated this period. Talking about Imo State and Ogun State, I think to a certain extent, these are states where the sitting governors are basically at the loggerheads with their parties and they have candidates. And so are those worrying spots for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the whole idea about political power and what it is used for is not what a lot of people who are leaders today is not what they have learned. The day we understand, and I say this to the credit of the former president of Nigeria, when he said that his aspiration is not worth the life of anyone. And that is why I'm sure whether you say he was pressured or whatever, he conceded. Now, what that tells you is that this person understands that power is transient and it can move from you today to someone else tomorrow. The problem we have in this state is that the people who are there right now don't understand this. It's not in their DNA that they can. These are the same set of people. If you check their history, they probably went to school, did school politics, and hung around school for a while, even after they had left. So you find, I'm telling you, you find that reoccurring in Nance. You are out of school, you held a position, and then you are still. So these are worrying spots. These are terrible spots that if we don't, because this is it. I must be empowered by all means. That's why you find out that they are in one party and they're supporting another candidate because they believe that they should be the one to determine. Yeah. Wow. And I'll just say my story, just very briefly. I was SUG PRO in University of Benin. When I was leaving, when I had done my 1 year, I was leaving. Someone came to me and said, you need to ensure that the next PRO that will emerge, you must have a say. I said, why should I have a say? I am leaving the school. It's not like I'm not leaving office and I'll remain here and then no, I'm leaving school.
Let's
let these people go and campaign.
Let's quickly wrap up now because I know there's so much we can talk about. There's fake news that keeps flying that incites people. We've seen people's posters being torn up by opposition, maybe sort of supporters, or being pasted over. Things like that definitely incite people. But we've also seen people sign peace accords. Yeah. And I don't know how effective things like that are. But just very, very quickly on the final note now, what sorts of things do you want to see from politicians in the next couple of days? Very quickly.
Look, in the next couple of days, politicians must understand. In the end, it's about the people. If there is war, who will you lead? That's the question. What we did in Lagos was to ensure that we got Sanwo-Olu and Jimmy Agbaje and a couple of other people to sign the first youth peace accord, which is called the YAVA. From now till the day of election, continue to engage in the conversation of how you're going to get people from poverty to employment.
Nothing else.
And let these guys know that if they do anything wrong, they will be held accountable for it.
For me, I believe that politicians should try as much as possible to denounce violence. Yeah. It goes a long way.
But they've been denouncing violence.
I think they need to do it more. Come out and tell their followers that I'm not part of violence, I'm not supporting violence in any way. If you are held during these elections for breaking any law, I'm not going to support you, I'm not going to try and pull you out. Because what we've had over time is people will be arrested, but nothing will be done to them, they will be released. Exactly. So they need to come out and always say that, yes, denounce it. We need the media to also always put it out there. I believe INEC is not doing enough in terms of advocacy. INEC should be doing much more and coming out there to tell people that these are the consequences of electoral violence. These are the consequences of electoral crimes.
Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you very much, Tunji, for being here today. Conversation continues.
Absolutely.
Hopefully the next 13 days are as peaceful as today has been.